interested in finding out more about the psychic being,
Okay.
because
Yes.
Mother always talks about being in connection. So we somewhere feel the presence, but it's always you keep moving away from it, and then you touch back again. So how is the means or ways
Wonderful.
to be in it always?
It's the first question that should be asked. Actually, without this discovery, all life is nothing but a crass ignorance. So, Mother gives some very beautiful insights about it. So, it's a long journey to start with. It's not discovered by learning a 14-day crash course in Nirvana or 10-day course on discovering the psychic being with $1,000. If we are nurturing those ideas, we might as well not start the journey. She says you need the patience as if one is discovering unknown continents. So these stories of, who was that man who went all the way to discover Antarctica? I'm not using the story of discovering India and America because the story ends very badly. But the story of this captain of the ship Endurance, who went all the way to discover Antarctica, was a failed mission. But people swear by his name that if there has to be a captain, it should be like him. So one needs to keep in your bag certain things, backpack. So one of them is patience, perseverance, endurance, watchword, faith. And it looks, all that is there. Yes, but it is tested as we move. Why? Because we are going to discover something like Indiana Jones movies. One particular one I remember where Steven Spielberg, the whole series, where he is going to discover the cup of Christ, which is, hidden inside. And what are the challenges? Why there are challenges? Precisely because it is, as Aurobindo says, the cup of immortality. And he says that, do you want it to be given to a weakling? See, the divine also learns that Ravan ko de diya tha. I had given to him just like that. We are not ready to be served on a platter. So when we go through this process, it becomes beautiful, gainful, but it is a challenging process. So if you want no challenges, no this thing, just it should be, I learn to concentrate and find it, then there are schools of thought and quick fix techniques. But this is a patient discovery. So we must pack these things in our bag and keep on increasing it. If faith is challenged, and one of the simplest way to increase such things is every time that a difficulty or challenge comes across, life is full of that. And in fact, the greater the possibility, the greater the challenges. Sometimes we can almost say that if there is no challenge, perhaps kindergarten, God has forgotten us. So challenges come in different ways in everyone's life, in one way or the other. So every time we meet with a challenge, we get sometimes too much occupied with that and forget what are we there for. The moment we remember, oh, my task is to go there and find it. See in Mahabharata story how on the day Abhimanyu dies, Trigat kings, they come and challenge Arjuna. And Shri Krishna tells him, this is not the goal. The goal is elsewhere. But Arjuna says, no, I am a Kshatriya, I'll take the challenge. Krishna cautions him. But he goes. And he goes and we know the rest is history. Though he is able to kill Trigat Naresh, but he loses Abhimanyu. So we must understand what is the challenge I have undertaken. It's not to prove a point or put down someone or be one-up man. No. There's only one challenge. I think today, Lalit Bhai, such a beautiful thing you said. Many lives to do one thing. So once we stay focused, this is it that I want. And this concentration must build up. It is not a moment's concentration that I sit and meditate. This builds up when this becomes the preoccupation of a life. So while we are going through anything and everything, life is a journey. Many landscapes, soulscapes, mindscapes, hardscapes will come. But the enduring thing, watchword must be that this is what I must find. Because without this, my life is adhura, which is a fact. So this will grow and build up through all the various aspects of life. Then second thing she wants, once we have kept the things in our backpack, and every time we meet with a difficulty, we can make our own, pick up that little thing in our back. Endurance, learns little more. Okay, keep it. Even physical travels, different kinds of food. So plasticity, let me pick it up and keep it. Flight got delayed, long journey, problems, challenges. Okay, perseverance, patience, trust. So this way we keep on increasing our good backpack. Equanimity, fundamental watchword. And with all this, we keep advancing. Sometimes we'll advance very fast. Sometimes we'll advance slow. Sri Aurobindo had this beautiful letter to the mother in 1915. He says that it is like he speaks about his own sadhana. He says it's much like the trench warfare in Europe. So, what is trench warfare? Both sides, the enemies are in trench. They can see each other, eyeball to eyeball. But they can't advance because whoever comes out to advance will be shot. They are having an eyeball to eyeball contact. It's a very interesting situation. I have seen those trenches, in Indian borders, Siachen. So if you are in that and the enemy is also in his trench, you can see each other. But you can't dare to come out because if you come out, whoever comes out takes the first. He says, what do you do during that state? He says, if you cannot advance, there are times when you cannot even sit for concentration. But still it must be there, hovering inside, even as a thought. Even something mechanically, okay, padna hai aaj Savitri, nothing else. Okay, I am going to take mother's name, even if my whole being is feeling exhausted and tired. Ma, ma, ma. Some way of connecting and reminding ourselves. So she says, remind yourself. Always let this discovery be like the overarching preoccupation of a life. And for that, few things, so that things don't drag us outside, is to learn to step back. And when we step back and see, we'll see that most of the things we get so much hassled about are really not worth it. So much time and energy we waste in that. So much, time is lost. So she says, WhatsApp has come much later to pull us out. But before that, there was Mahalla gossip. What happened? Now people are discussing over that. Oh, this happened, that happened. Is it really worth it? At the end of the day, what counts is what is that one pointed goal? It's one point. And this one point is something very interesting. She speaks about it. See, Kartikeya's weapon is spear. Kartikeya is a god in Indian mythology and he is called as Deva Senapati. He is the leader of the army of gods. Why is he holding a spear? You expect him to be armed with all kinds of machine guns and all this, but he has a spear. So he represents the soul in man. So he is on Peacock, the victory. And that story is, of course, another story, and I must not get into too many stories. But spear point is literally that he represents the soul. So our entire, aspiration is always symbolized as mountains. All the mountains, that's why they are awe-inspiring. And look at a mountain. It's awe-inspiring. It's like the entire aspiration climbing up. You see, Sri Aurobindo symbol. Matter aspires through light, life, and love. And then the grace is descending down. So everything must become slowly into one pointedness. Any event of life must become a catalyst for turning towards that. If it's a beautiful event, pleasant event, let me put it like that. Lord, your grace is infinite. Unpleasant event, your grace is infinite. Because either which way, it is the grace which is carrying us. And that's a whole journey. So to become more and more one pointed. And for that, she again advises a few practical things. One is to learn to step back. This journey itself is very fascinating, arduous, challenging, extracting. So we should not lose time in getting into all kinds of meaningless things. Life is there, everything is there, fine, but not to be preoccupied with that. And then she says, anything that we do, before we do, to once again reminding ourselves. So she gives these wonderful things, the food that you eat. And see, this was inbuilt in Indian culture at least. So before we eat, offer it to the divine. Yesterday that I was about to say, that morning, that ashram dining room bread. So, yeah, it reminded me there is no bread like ashram dining room bread. But at the same time, when, Mahalakshmi's grace and, food is served, everything becomes a prasad because that too is receives the touch. So that's the beauty given to man that he can consciously turn whole life into a sacrament, a sacrifice to the eternal. That's what she says. All your life must become a now sacrifice is not a painful thing, but refining. Sacrifice means to refine things. Love is there between human beings. It's not that you have to leave this for that, but you have to turn it also towards that. So when love is refined, when we get rid of, all kinds of false attachments, when we get rid of the, that ego struggles and fights, we refine the energy of love. Very often people say ki Bhagwan ki bhakti nahi hoti. I am not able to love Lord. First we learn to refine love, because if love is crude, it can't turn towards the divine. That's why certain proscriptions. We can either let this energy of love flow into lust, or we can gather it up into a one pointing spire and turn it into a fire. So everything must be turned toward the divine. Food we eat, sleep to offer it to the divine. She says, before we speak, just she says a tad bit moment. Tad is a modern word, she doesn't use that. But a little bit moment, just step back and say that may only those words come out which are going to help myself and this world become a better place. See, what is mother's work? If this world is to be transformed, then everywhere there should be the aspiration. Every time we criticize somebody, we have actually fixed him, made it that much more difficult for the divine, and for because you have now labeled. But every time when we remind people of the inherent beauty, it's not flattery, of course, is ugly. I mean, it's something deceit. But when we genuinely remind each other of the beauty inside things, of the glory, the great discovery, then life becomes so beautiful. It helps everyone. And when we help everyone, we help ourselves. Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu niramaya. So this is the principle behind this discovery, that offer everything. One practice in integral yoga is to remember and offer. I think this is a wonderful mantra. Remember the divine, of course, not the ego, and offer to the divine. Everything. Seemingly good, seemingly bad, seemingly pleasant, seemingly painful. Even within us, tendencies, outside things is very easy to offer. There's a very nice bhajan. Originally, Dvijendra Lal Roy, even Sri Ramakrishna said something to this effect. But the bhajan runs like this: Bhali buri hoon jaisi Prabhuji, rakho apne paas. Yeh le lo ma, I'll translate it. Yeh le lo ma, paap tumhara. Yeh le lo ma, punya tumhara. All that I call as ugliness within me, Mother, you take it. Don't try to cover it. Oh, I shouldn't show. I should wear a nice sadhuvacha facade of this dress, girva and white, and look very nice. No, just as we are before her. That's why with the mother we can be like that. No, divine has come as mother precisely so, because nothing is hidden from the mother. Child, mother knows inside out. So this is how we relate. And when there are beautiful things, oh, I am the one who is being praised. I am the one. I am the one. So instead, we should say, one is the one. That's it. And just turn this I, remove this little bit and make it I. Make it one. One is the one. And to offer these things, remembrance, then what happens? A whole internal climate develops in the consciousness. There is a peace and quietude which develop. So you don't have to mate through all these hard, rocky stones. Otherwise, when we try to go within, sit for meditation, first thing that resists is the physical body. In Savitri, we see these three levels. So what does the physical body say? You may sit for 2 hours. I'll not let you go in. I'll give you a nice nap, because the body knows only inertia. And we come out fresh. Why? Because good nap will be. Wow, kya meditation. Mother says some people, when they meditate, they get into a very beautiful feeling and they think that they had a wonderful meditation. So it's not like, okay, I have done every day 1 hour meditation. More important is 23 hours, what we were doing. So when this happens, this inner space becomes clear of clutters. The second level is the vital, which is all the time. In Savitri, we have these three levels, no? The giant head of life. And what does it say? Aggrandizes everything. You, and you are covering the whole world. And ultimately, the you covers the divine. See that? So we have to remember that it all belongs to the divine. And whenever things develop or praise, especially the vital, is so much seeking praise. It gets so moved with praise. So it has to learn. One of the signs of Agni in the vital and vital conversion is this. It's not moved by praise. Not that it's practicing some stoic. It's not like it's a nay, nothing. Not like that. Sahaj Roop. So you know that it is all divine. You can't help it. So this is to get above praise and blame, to get above these, astuti, ninda, dau, tyagi, khoje tab nirvana. Shri Krishna tells in the Gita, Shitoshna sukh dukheshu hani labho jaya jayo. All the dualities that will come to distract us to stay focused. So that's what stay focused. Then what happens? The inner path becomes clear. And then she says, it's all there in Savitri, discovery of the soul. So the third level at which the difficulty comes is the mind. Immediately it receives the truth, it crystallizes it, says this is it. So if one day you were kneeling down and you had a beautiful experience, now you say, this is the technique. You make a fool of everyone. You may sit, you may kneel, you may play football, you may walk, and you will discover. Because there is actually nothing else. You were saying that story yesterday. I was reminded of another story. I shared Chutnaranji, some of you may have heard. Chutnaran Sharma. So he used to share many of his beautiful personal life events with me. One of them was that he was a young boy, 15, and he saw, there was a sadhu in the town and everybody called him mad. Okay, so if you are called mad, know that mad is not always a negative thing. Okay, so there is in ashram nowadays they ask psychiatric certification. So people come and ask me, I'm supposed to certify. So they ask me, won't you ask any questions or take an interview? I said, just tell me one thing. Are you normal or abnormal? Only one person gave me the right answer. If I was normal, I would be pursuing normal aims. I said, good. Which normal person will pursue such aims? So, and final word is by Sri Aurobindo, man is an abnormal seeking his own normalcy. So this is another thing, always keep a touch of humor and cheerfulness in life. Sadhana is not a serious process. Now I'm a serious sadhak, so I'll not smile, there used to be one, Radhanand, you may have heard from Jhumurdi this story. She'll tell you. So when he would come out, he was like a traditional yogi, he must. So he'll close his eyes so that he doesn't want to see and get distracted. And these two wonderful, lovely girls, Chom and Jhumurdi. So they used to take a great joy. And when he's coming near, tangdi this. And he would fall and close his eyes. So you see, that's not how things are done. We have this idea. Sadhana is towards whom? Anandamay. Divine is Anandamay. There's something so beautiful about Indian thought that he is delight. How can the journey be grim and sorrow? This is a man of sorrows to get rid of him. We are moving toward the all delightful. So people often ask, what is the sign that we are progressing? One sign is that we are cheerful. Very practical sign that we smile. Mother has given this sign to smile under every circumstance. In Savitri, you have this line, a smile was its return to life and pain. It's an all victorious smile, the smile of the certitude that the divine is with us, to live constantly with this thought that the divine is with us, to keep reminding ourselves that we are never alone. And actually, when we are alone, it is blissful because then more easily we can. But to just stay connected. And then and not to make a dogma. What is good for me may not be good for another person. To make a fetish of vegetarianism. Mother spoke of even that. When the World Vegetarian Congress asked her for a message, she didn't give the message for 2 months. They reminded her she didn't give a message. So the disciples is asking for a message. And she gave, I wanted to tell some strong things, but that's why. But it is about not to make a dogma of anything. You won't find God just by these means, it would be so easy. It doesn't matter. It is with this idea, this burning flame. So to keep it burning, now that comes the complementary side of the sadhana. She says there is a positive side and a negative side of sadhana. Positive side is everything that feeds the flame, let it grow. So, for instance, a gathering like this, I take it as a yajna. It is not a talk. And these are not random events, mind you. Let me also say this, since we are at it. It is by some strange set of circumstances. For last few years, different people have been calling me to Europe, and it didn't materialize for different reasons. This is my first trip, and I land up in, of course, mother's place, and this is the first talk, technically, literally, on the European soil. So these are not random events. We may think about it as, but behind all these things, there is a plan which is working. And there's a beauty in letting it unfold. So several times the trips didn't work out, and I have to push myself somehow. Even this trip was on the verge of collapsing. I said, okay, nahi hua to nahi hua, because of visa issues and all that. But it turned out suddenly a window opened. So to remember always, this makes life a wonderful discovery. So the positive side is meetings like this, satsang. Satsang is this. Instead of satsang is not just people with a like-minded, but centered around a core. Because like-minded people can meet over a dinner party and there would be nothing to do with satsang. Satsang is to join together in that beauty of the light. It is, and if nobody is there with a books like Sri Aurobindo's books are satsang. So to read every day, something to connect us, to be together, to cultivate quietude, because it'll allow the flame to grow. But storms of passions, too much excitement, anger, worst of all, fear, they cover the flame with smoke. Ambition. There's a line in the Mother that your faith, what it should be and should not be. It must not be like a low, it should not be done under ambition. Faith in the divine so that he fulfills my ambition. He says a faith which is moved by ambition is a low and smoke obscured flame that cannot rise upward to heaven. This part, little bit paraphrasing, but a low and smoke obscured. When we are driven by ambition, chapter 3 of the Mother is a low and smoke obscured flame. So turning to God, I want the psychic being. Why some people even abhi to Swamiji ban jayenge, yogi ban jayenge. Nothing of that sort, but it is worth it. What else is worth it? Frankly, because this is a permanent thing which we carry. So meet those people who will ignite this flame and avoid that. Guru Nanak says it this way. He says, Sadho man ka मान त्यागो काम क्रोध संगति दुर्जन की तासे ahanish bhago. Stay away from the company of people. Just like satsang, its other complementary side is stay away from the company of people, places, environment, parties and all that, where you will come back drained, exhausted, if this is the goal. Otherwise, it's okay. It's not like a moral issue. Don't go to party and no. Each to each his own. Complete freedom in that. But if we really want this, then we have to do. It's like if I want to, like Madame Curie, she wanted to discover something amazing. So you have to take certain precautions. You are so preoccupied. Even forgot that today is my marriage anniversary. For a change, a woman forgot. And, she paid her life to, help everybody. And then her husband carried on the research. So this should be, so you have to shield yourself against these forces. But always it's not possible. So when we meet, one has to do the Nam Jap. Remember the Mother, practice equanimity. Look at this world, this wonderful, dangerous, delightful world, full of amusing things. And without judging, non-judgmental, and to just stay quiet with it. So then, and not to fix things into dogma. Each is on his journey. There are different stages, even within one life, and there are different people. So not to, nobody should be condemned as gone forever. But the other side is we should know what is what. Even the snake has a destiny. If it surrenders to Shiva, he becomes Vasuki. Or if he gives himself and prostrates at the feet of Lord Vishnu, he becomes Sheshashayya. But if he roams around the wild, he's a dangerous creature. Stay away. Don't put him around you. See, all divine is in all beings. Dangerous, Only Shiva snake you can touch like that. Because snake knows Shiva is right behind. If I do any hanky-panky, he's a Shiva Bhakt. I better stay in my place. So that is the principle that one adopts in life. So one doesn't condemn, but at the same time, one knows what is what. Not knowing this, very often great ideals have become a cause of great harm to the earth because of this lack of discernment. But discernment is not judgmentalness or condemning something forever. So just to see things with this quietude, knowing that the divine is in all, whenever we meet with an appearance which is troublesome, to know that he dwells in this also. There's a small little experience I had with somebody from the ashram, never went out. So often we have this pride, I have never gone out. Okay, but much more challenging is to go out and live out and do the yoga. I have seen both sides, so I can say for sure, I personally have a much softer corner that this is yoga. वहाँ तो जहाँ everything is there, स्वर्ग नगरी में तो is a different thing. I mean, so somebody went along with me first time, outside the ashram. So I said, since you have come out, we'll take you to a mall. What is a mall? I said, Mandi. So, गाँव की मंडी यहाँ mall हो गई. Am I saying something wrong? That's how it used to be in villages, no? Mandi, where you have food grains, you have jewelry shop, you have clothes, everything. That has become now you have painted and made it beautiful and everything is attractive. The cost is so that's small. So the person went and felt very intimidated, because first time you go out and when you are from a little village background, ye kya hai, wo kya hai? I want to go out here. I said, okay, I'll tell you one thing. Calm down. Sit on this chair. Now you start seeing Krishna everywhere. I said, this is the place. So I said, after half an hour, you'll feel quiet. See him in all things that happen. So this is not that you must create such situations, but this I'm just saying to have that wideness. Mother focused on these two things, wideness and plasticity. Two things which are so needed. So as we do all this, so mind also should not be shut up in a fixed dogma. What we were doing 20 years back need not be the same thing I would do all my life. That means I have not progressed. If somebody tells me, often, sorry, but this is how I say old age, how do you define it? When people start saying, जब मैं छोटा बच्चा था, बड़ी शरारत करता था, Bajaj ad, Roshan hota Bajaj. When I was young, it was so beautiful. Life was so beautiful. Now, things are, that means I have not progressed, frankly speaking. Life is progressing in everything. So when we are stuck and glued to a way of life, which my parents or their grandparents, then I have really, But when we are always looking forward towards a beautiful, luminous future with the faith that, you see, that story of Krishna is about that. That's why Krishna is shown always as youthful and a child. That's Mother says that because he's always progressing. So to keep this urge of progress, whatever I may have discovered is nothing. I may have had a great realization. What does it matter? There is no end to the beautiful discovery. Now, instead of being intimidated, this should make us feel happy. What a boring life it should be. Oh, I had this realization. Now I'll sit and teach everybody. No. Life is such a marvelous discovery because the divine is infinite. So to live with all these senses, it breaks the mental dogmas and barriers. Why? Because divine meets us unexpectedly. With the psychic discovery, I can share with you even on personal notes. And Sri Aurobindo spoke about it, that all his and mother's experience happened spontaneously. That is the joy of the unexpectedness. So when we are closing our eyes, to put it a little more, and there's a group meditation and everybody is using this mudra and going inside with, maybe God is just standing outside and says, open your eyes, child, I am right there. Remember Amal Kiran said this. So when mother would meditate, these two sides people were sitting, and somebody used to sit right in front. And Amal Kiran would be keeping his eyes open. And sometimes he would draw sketches and even give a caption. So one of them was, of course, Purani ji. When Purani ji was a wrestler, and his neck was pretty. And when he would sit in meditation, loll a little. So he made him with the neck all compressed and looking down, and he gave a caption: "Undermined by the supermind, undermined by the overmind." So somebody asked him, "Why don't you close your eyes like this?" He says, "Why should I when Jagat Janni is sitting in front of me?" Mother spoke about it, Sri Aurobindo's letter. Just looking into their photographs, he said, yes, this is a means of coming into contact with them. So it's true that divine is inside, but wherever there is a manifestation of the divine outside, that too also, that's why he has done all this. That's why she gave the photographs yesterday. We were saying, Sri Aurobindo, out of his infinite compassion, the year he was leaving the body, 6 months before, he gave these photographs. Otherwise, between 1920 to 1950, people wanted, he didn't give. But he knew that to give this. So there are wonderful means. And this idea of, yes, ultimately the discovery is inner, but there are many things outwardly which can be a wonderful help. I personally, my favorite is mother's music, her Savitri, reading. Nothing like that. There's nothing like mother's own voice Savitri reading. And with Sunil Das music, there is Sone Par Suhaga. So, nothing more than that you can, so to play it. Even if one cannot meditate, concentrate, you're feeling bad, open randomly Savitri, to carry it all the time with us. So all these are even external aids given to help us discover, and we should make full use. So in my room, I have all Mother and Sri Aurobindo's pictures all around. So once a group of students came from a very left liberal university in India. So they were very happy talking to me till they came to my room. So I don't talk to them about Mother and Sri Aurobindo unless you ask. Suddenly they saw, sir, why are all these pictures in your house? I said, you have a problem. So, no, then they got, I said, you have a problem. It's my choice. Some people put parents' pictures, I put their picture because I love them. So is there a problem in putting a picture of somebody whom I love? So you see how this kind of thought process, no. Nowadays, social approval. So you do what you wish. So I used to keep Live Divine and Savitri on my table all through my Air Force days. Even hang the mother's calendar, play Sunil Das music. People said, no, Air Force, you're not supposed to do that. I said, let somebody come and tell me, I'll give my reasons. Mother's grace, nobody. Commandants came, very senior officers came, and they would see, and they would, because they are there, they will take care. I don't have to worry. But never to get intimidated by all these things. So to carry them all the time, so every which way. And then, of course, finally comes the concentration in the heart. After all, when all this must go on together. And for that, Mother says, first thing before we concentrate, what are we really seeking? It's not like, okay, some people make an image. Psychic being is like this, and is it this, or it is the divine presence? Is there a difference? Just to discover the divine within, psychic will come. What else? That is the door. If you want to go to the temple to have darshan of the divine, you will come to the door. Is there any other way? So we are not seeking the door, we are seeking the divine inside. Psychic will come because that is the door. It is the door to the divine and the universal and the transcendent divine. The mother described the psychic as the wire connecting with the body, the lamp, with the divine, the generator. So follow this trail, and any which way, this concentration need not be at a particular moment. Follow the world's winding highway to its course. There one finds, trod by rare wounded pilgrim feet. And then, like Amarnath, go down in the cave. See all our temples located high up or going down to teach humility, to teach the perseverance, breath may. So to keep practicing abhyas, the only way to perfect meditation is through abhyas. There is no other shortcut technique. To every day to make a time when one will sit. And while one is doing, remembering, and offer, all these things. Then it works. Okay, this is a time when I more intimately, he whom I am remembering, otherwise I want to be in a very intimate, close contact. And then one, like a child, just contacts. You can use an image of the flame. Mother has given a few images. One image is you're sitting before a door, asking, you're on the other side, open the door. The other image is going through a tunnel towards the light. Simplest image is, see, Mother and Sri Aurobindo are perfect gentlemen. She has not said, concentrate upon me. Later on, she wrote like that to some disciples. But that is the fact for us to concentrate on their luminous form, deep inside, in the center of the heart. No need for anatomical and geographical details. It's a different geography inside. The inner space does not follow the anatomical heart is on the left, but the psychological heart is in the center. And when we start moving, there is only one way. So one keeps going inside. One day one sits, comes out, nothing happened. Doesn't matter. Next day. Like the story of Kalidas, Rassi avat jat te sil par padat nisan. You make a rope, go again and again over a rocky stone, you will see after some time there is dent. Even drops of water pierce through stones. Hopefully we are not stones, but even if we are, ultimately before the power of concentration. And she says that in the beginning itself, don't seek all this for any ulterior motives and ambition. The divine for the sake of the divine. What else is worth seeking? So the story of Chhot Narayan suddenly. So there was this madman, and one day he followed him and asked him, his name was Bholu something. Bholu, are you mad or you are a saintly man? So he looked at him. He said, why are you asking? He said, the whole village says you are a mad person. So he remained quiet, and after some time he said, no, I'm not mad. So he says, have you seen God? He says, is there anything else to see? Is there anything else to see? Then he asked, can you show it to me? He said, no, your path is different. What do you mean? I don't even have a path. No, your guru is already there. He has called you to the path. But I have no guru. He had not known about Mother and Sri Aurobindo. He will come. He is already watching over you. How do you know? He says, I see him. Look at how the sense of time. We think we are the ones discovering. We went to Pondicherry. We discovered. We don't realize it is he who was playing hide and seek, the eternal game of the divine beloved. And then one moment comes and you say, oh, I am the one who. So sometimes I really don't know. Earlier I would recount this story, how I went to Mother and Sri Aurobindo in nice detail. But I realized I really don't know. She is the one who called, and God knows, kab se, as you discover, you realize that your pact with them is like Jai Vijay from the time started. So Mother said that, and somebody asked, Mother, have we all met in previous lives? This is my child, yes. All of you are here today because I have promised this to you. You don't remember it, but I remember it. So to live with this great assurance that what I cannot do today, however much time it takes, will be done one day, because it doesn't really depend on me. It depends on the divine. There is a moment of disclosure when he will disclose that verse in the Kathopanishad, Na yamatma, na pravachane, na medha, na bahuna shrutin, yamaveshe vranute tena labhyasta sheshe, atma vivranute tanuswam. The self discloses itself. And the same thing Sri Aurobindo and the Mother describes, the inexpressible mystery sometimes chooses a vessel of descent. Suddenly it discloses itself. Why? Because it knows. To close with this little story, Mother said, because somebody asked, Mother, I'm sitting for concentration, all that, nothing is happening. I've heard everything, reversal, this, that, nothing is happening. Then she gave this example of the little egg. It says, if you look at the egg, seems nothing is happening, and Inside the egg, the chick also doesn't know what is happening. I like this story better than the caterpillar and the butterfly. Nothing is happening. So, but mother hen knows there is a chick inside. Her own little form is inside. And so she is brooding over it. She is giving the heat and energy required. And one day, when the baby is ready, the chick is ready, all that she has to do is to peck, and the chick flies out. So, no effort which is made Godward is ever wasted. Swalpamasya dharmasya, the Gita says. Even a little, the Ramayana says, ek ghadi ya do ghadi, आधों में पुनियाद, 1 moment or 2 moments or less than even half or half of half moment. Tulsi sangati sadhu ki hare koti aprad. The company of the great ones, the wise ones, the holy ones, it dissolves many obstacles which are on the path. So with this thought, we must sit and continue. Sit is inside. Actually, literally, it means that. The word, yesterday we were speaking about root words. Stand, sthiti. The root is SNT. Plenty of root words in Latin and Sanskrit, they're very common, but that's a different story altogether. So we must sit inside on the asana of faith, unswerving faith, and seek the divine as if we were seeking the very breath of our life. Because truly, without him, we are living dead. And with him, even while the world sees we have died, but we live eternally. Okay, so I don't know whether it answered your question.
It answered many questions without being asked.
So, but anything, yeah.
And if they would like some water?
No, I don't need, yeah. There's another rus which flows.
Well, we are enjoying
So,
that.
any other question which anyone has? But this is the most important thing. Actually, all CS said the mind cannot understand spiritual things. We must know this arrogance of the mind. Sadho man ka man tyago. This is such a terrible thing. It's one of the banes of today's. I'm not saying one should be mindless and unintelligent. No. Mind is something which has developed through the course of evolution. But the mind, by its very nature, cannot understand the divine, because if it could, then mind would be God. Logically. It cannot understand. But there is something else in us which can understand by opening to the divine grace. It doesn't mean forever we will never understand. But to understand, we need to stand under. That's what Upanishad says. Upanishad word means this. Upanishad word means two things. Going to the heart of the knowledge, Upanishad, inner knowledge, entering the inner being for true knowledge. Or sitting at the feet of the realized one realizes. So it means humility before the divine, one realizes great truths. So to learn to stand under rather than I am a very intelligent fellow. So,
Anish, you had some questions?
Can you give us on the planes of consciousness?
okay, wonderful, yeah. Yeah, we just passingly mentioned about it. This is, of course, a wonderful. So planes of consciousness, meaning thereby, to start with that, we don't exist only on this one material plane. And instead of starting with a metaphysical thing, let's start very practically. I am right now in Brussels. But at this moment, are we only in Brussels? No. Ideatively, we are elsewhere, maybe roaming into some ideative sky, maybe diving deep into some heart cave. So physically, I may be in one place. Let's start this way. Emotionally, I may be somewhere else. Vitally, I may be elsewhere. Intellectually, I may exist elsewhere, and spiritually somewhere else. This is But why we don't know all this simultaneously? Because of the ignorance, we have to selectively concentrate. So when we are too much focused on physical and sensory thing, we forget that suddenly we get a message, somebody is, come first or done something very well. Let's take a good example. So we may be physically somewhere, but suddenly our thoughts and feelings rush. And we are with that person experiencing that joy. It sounds very natural and normal because, we live it. But why does this happen? Because we do exist on many, many planes. So corresponding to each of these things we experience, there is planes of existence. So there is the physical plane. I am not on the entire earth at the same time, but I am on a little spot of earth. So I know that area. That is the physical plane. Physical plane is made of gross matter. Quality is very dense, obscure, doesn't allow us to move freely. Its medium is very concrete. And the human body, built of this dense substance, also cannot just fly in air. It holds everything by inertia, by gravity. These are the attributes of this physical matter and the physical plane. But we have a life plane where things fly. Literally, you can feel emotions flowing as waves. So, because there is a plane of the vital where things are not bound so rigidly, we may experience only a section of it, like physically. Right now, I experience this spot of earth. But after a few days, I'll experience another spot of earth. So, in the vital world, there are many, 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 many subplanes, sub-dimensions, and we experience them depending upon where we are located, where the vital is at one point located. Now, in many of us, the vital remains tied to the body, it ties. So we are all the time, our feelings, our life energy is connected only to what is happening physically. Oh, this happened. So everybody, all the feelings, but it need not be so. As we develop, the vital parts in us start expanding. A person doing business in place A may suddenly plan, oh, that place is much more conducive. So what happens? His mind and heart begins to live there partially because he's preoccupied, he is reading books and everything. So there is this plane of the vital which has many sublayers. So there is the lower vital, which is a plane which contains all these things which are very intimately connected with the physical body, food, sexuality, and then little more ambition. So, and then little more of this vital emotions and feelings. So, emotions and feelings means there is a certain degree of ascension. And it's very interesting psychological repercussion, but I'll come to that a little later. To understand this is so important in our everyday life. And then there is a plane of the mind where we live in ideas. Now you see how we switch from one plane to another. You go to the ashram, and then of course there is beyond the mind, the spiritual, and deep within the psychic. Now all of us have some experience or the other of all these. When we are in front of the mother, very often, life is beautiful. We have given everything to mother and we are in that psychic state. Or when we suddenly receive a beautiful inspiration and we look at a picture, maybe before a mountain, and we are lost, and suddenly that mountain leads us to the grandeur of Shiva. So we have entered into a spiritual domain. Through the physical, I have traveled into a spiritual space. And I'm having that experience. It could have happened before any mountain. But for me, that moment became a moment of apocalypse. So this is the spiritual plane. But we don't live on that alone. After some time, we get a mobile call. Doctor Saab, there is an emergency. Kya ho gaya? Okay. Subarachnoid hemorrhage. Now I'm giving a real example because I was inside just entering the ashram and somebody called up. So my quick thing was subarachnoid hemorrhage. So I said, "Acha, abhi main aata hu." But anyways, baki sab arrange ho gaya. So I went inside the ashram. Now, before meditation, my mind is, I must brush up everything about subarachnoid hemorrhage. So I opened my mobile and started reading a little bit. And of course, I was spotted. And doctor, you're not allowed to see the mobile, read anything. I said, I'm sorry, I was doing mother's work. I thought because there is a patient. No, Don't read. I say, see, this is so convenient. Then I have learned over a period of time, don't argue. So I said, okay, I do a pranam. So simultaneously, because our mind has to focus on one thing, so we become oblivious of the other. But there is a state of consciousness in which you can become aware of all these domains which exist in their own right. There are forces, energies which belong to that domain. Now, to take an example, what is the evidence that there are forces and energies? Indirect evidences are plenty. Have we tried to understand why at a point of time suddenly certain thoughts enter us? Some people will say neurons, but neurons will not. Just imagine you have to give a talk for 1 hour. How the neurons will automatically process and create a ordered? No, they come. So the brain is just a receiving organ. They're coming from all over. What you select by training and whatever way, you have allowed certain thoughts to enter, and so grooves are created, much like a television or a computer. So, television program is another good example. You're watching a program. Where is it happening? So there are several levels of answer. To the most materialist, is happening right now. Come, see, action, live. But not for the, of course, live events. But even with live events, it's happening elsewhere. It's not happening here. And with many of the events, they have happened much before. And even before that, before the director started a project on a movie, it happened in the brain as an idea. So if you keep working backwards, you enter into the origin of things, which is what Sri Aurobindo calls is the supermind, the real idea. Now, this idea, now we are seeing it from above downward. The Gita speaks about Ashwath tree. The roots of creation are above, from there they spread downwards. So there is in the origin of the divine this real idea. And this real idea is at once one and many. So there is the one idea, Ekoham Bahushyam. The divine wanted to become many. And now that idea is the one which is governing everything, because it's the most powerful, omnipotent idea, omniscient idea. But it takes many forms. So in somebody, I want to become divine, the love. I want to become divine, the wisdom. I want to become divine, the strength, and so on and so forth, and its ramifications. So in its origin, there is this supramental plane or vision in which all is known forever. Actually, the way we see things enacted is a stream of time. But honestly, if we just step back and see things, we will see that this event, which happened apparently now, its origin is long back. Simple thing, today I am here. Now, I may say that things... Now, would it have materialized in this way if I had not known Akshay Bhai at all? So we go back. Where did we meet? Why we met? So if you go back that way, you will see there is a whole trail. It's amazing to see the stream of time. We think of cause and effect as immediately. So in Supermind, all is known forever. The entire vision. It's like when you go up and look at two cars which are moving. It's like, when people comment on a cricket match, today is going on, no? India, Pakistan. More important than anything else in the world. It's like a war. So what happens when people are watching it? Arey, wo shot kyun mara? They have seen and they feel it should not have been like this, should have been like this, right? Because you're watching from a distance. Jaake khelo. You won't be able to stand even with the bat. So that is exactly what happens as you rise in the consciousness. You will see an event taking place which is already being shaped. There are two cars coming at a certain speed, and if one knew the law of physics, one will know exactly that they are going to collide at this point of time. But more than physics, if you know the intent of the driver, maybe he's going to turn elsewhere so they won't collide. So there are several planes through which this idea descends. And each plane has its own role in the formation of what we call as ourselves. So suddenly we are open to the thought plane, a suggestion comes and we say, oh, this is Corona, I am going to die. Where did this suggestion come? To somebody else, another suggestion may come. I am mother's child, nothing will happen to me. Same event, same situation, two different suggestions. One is the common collective suggestion, born out of fear and prudence. Let me not, be only negative. Another is another suggestion born out of a domain of faith. So another is a practical suggestion: die and usko chodo. If you don't wear a mask, you'll be fined. So this way, there are suggestions which bombard us from these planes. Now, where if you have these suggestions, there must be some hubs, some places where the one idea is received and then transmitted. These are the godheads of the different planes. So every plane will have a godhead who is dedicated to one particular work. That's how you have 33, 30 crore. I know there are a number of explanations. Some explanation which tries to almost be apologetic about being gods. I would say the more the merrier, because creation is so vast, they are cosmic managers. And divine is planned it so beautifully. Each god is a cosmic manager. So there is a god who receives the impulsion coming from their rain. So what he does, he automatically, it's not magic. He starts working upon physical matter, like we make things out of plasticine. So suddenly clouds are gathering, the winds are flowing in a certain way, and then they precipitate. But he may have another god called wind god. He gets the impulsion, scatter these clouds. So the result is a question of these two clashes. It looks like clash, but then through the clash, something else is being prepared for Earth. So that's a different thing, because when human beings see this unpredictability, they grow in consciousness. They want to be certain, because this need to be certain, to be free of error, is inbuilt within us. That's how we climb. That no, ye kya hua? Clouds were there. I thought it's going to rain. It didn't rain. What was happening? Through this play between the wind god and the cloud god, I'm using mythological words, human beings grew. No, I want certitude. At this level, I cannot have. I'll still be lost with the gods. So the gods are there. But to please the gods or to have a god is only in that limited domain. That's why the Upanishads say, gods are there, we are their cattle, but go beyond them and identify with that supreme. That's what Mother also says beautifully. So anyway, so this is the plane of ideas. Similarly, emotions. Have you ever experienced why suddenly something clicks with someone? Somebody else may say, Arey, you are doing a most foolish thing. No, my heart has gone for this person. Where did it all happen? From the plane of feelings. Like waves, they came, entered, and those who have an occult vision can see dove-like feeling entering. And if somebody could see like that, would say, this is going to be beautiful. Somebody sees a bird has entered, but it is, turbulent. I don't want to name, because feelings are beautiful domains. I don't want to touch them by using terrible words, but there are birds saying this relationship will eat you up. This bird is entering, I see, and you feel this feeling because of this suggestion. They enter the vital. Suddenly we are seized by an impulse and do things which we never imagined in our sane mind to do it. People put money on satta and lose everything. So there are these domains, and to understand them is important, because all our life and action draws from their breath. And that's why Sri Aurobindo says to have an understanding of the play of forces, use the word play of forces, is so important for this yoga. For yoga where you want to go away from life, it may not be so important. But in this yoga, it's important. So broadly, we can divide these multiple domains. They climb on this, the mind plane, mind itself has, now I'm not going into that technicality, but right at each level, that real idea, one idea, gets a little bit distorted a little bit. It's like in any company, you want to make a house and you tell the builder or who is it, to architect, I want to make a house. This is what do you want? You will say, I want space, I want light, and Now you can do this in several ways, right? So it gives you certain propositions. And it may not match, but at some point you say, okay, this one is okay. It's still not clicked, but say, okay. Then it comes to the next level. Now the builder comes into play. He says, sir, aise nahi banega. Oh, now he is saying, you can't just do it like this. So he modifies a little. Then the mason modifies a little. The man on the ground who is laying the bricks modifies a little. Finally, you compromise, theek hai ab, jo ban gaya. So at each level, Mother uses the word formatures for these people. So over mind downwards, you have the intuitive mind, the illumined mind, the higher mind. The real idea is taking a form. They are building a form. forms in the mind. At the higher mind, it takes a concrete form. So that is the birthplace of religions. So it becomes a fixed form. So that's why you'll see in religion a lot of symbols. Any religion, you'll have symbols, rituals. So it's a higher mind where it crystallizes. Then it enters the human mind, the rational mind. Rational mind toys with it. It gives a system of philosophy. Then it enters the vital mind, the imaginative mind. It says philosophy is too much. So it gives stories, myths, legends, same truth. So you have the Puranas, so you connect at another level. Then comes the physical mind. He says all this is nonsense. I don't believe. I want only what the senses know to be true. Then there is entry into the heart. So heart says, forget all this. I'll find in my own way. So the feelings come and you feel love for God or love for human being or love for yourself. Something or the other, the energy of love starts doing its own magic because it's coming from that domain, no more the mind. So this energy begins to start enter into conflict with the physical mind. Physical mind says only what the senses see is true. God cannot be true. The emotional being says, no, I feel it, therefore it is true. Finish. Summary disposal. Whoever wins in a particular or life perpetual conflict, then it goes still further. God may be there, but what is he of use to me? So lower vital. Give me this, give me that, give me this, give me that. Then the physical. And only for those material goods we. So this is a whole hierarchy of planes, and each of them has a god or multiple gods. So there are Uch Devta and there are Shudra Devtas, the higher gods. What is the task of their higher gods? You will see them in Savitri, Heavens of the Ideal. They constantly bid us to rise higher and higher and higher. And then the lower gods, they tie us, pull us down because consciousness is flowing from above downwards. So that it is natural movement. And why this natural movement? So that ultimately the victory has to be on earth. That's where Sri Aurobindo and the mother bring in the yoga of transformation. So there are all these countless planes, but primarily now to come to the pure mathematical part of it, there are 7 planes. So this higher and lower, this division. So there are the 3 higher worlds and 3 lower worlds to start with. We'll talk about the 4th later. The 3 higher worlds are Sachidanand. So Sachidanand means is 3 aspects primarily. The mother and Sri Aurobindo speak about 4, which is more accurate. Sat is pure existence. So there is a world where Sachidanand appears as Sat Purush. So you'll see in religions, Sat Lok, Sat Nam, Sat Purush, pure existence. So come in touch with pure existence, you are released from this bondage of this little existence. But there is another domain, higher world, where he is Chit Tapas. So as pure consciousness, which is full awareness, consciousness is 2 aspects, which is knowledge and the other is power. As pure knowledge, which knows all this world and ties it together, he is seen as Vishnu, managing the affairs of the world. And Sat Purush, all existence, as Brahma. This is how they have conjured the whole. But not the Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh of the later mythology, but Mahavishnu or Mahabrahma, Mahashiv. And then you have Shiva, the force. So Chit Tapas has these 2. And then you have Anand, Sachidanand. So Anand, the Ghan Shyam. So you have the Anand Lok. So all these 3 are higher worlds. Why they are higher worlds? There is the sense of oneness, unity. Obviously, there is no death because wherever there is unity, infinity, there will be no death. So that's why the dance of Vrindavan in Golok, in Krishna's world, is perfect. Why? Because this perfect unity, perfect rhythm. The secret of leading a beautiful earthly life is actually there. And then out of them, 3 lower worlds come. They are its shadow. So we have the mind. The knowledge becomes a limited, struggling mind of the mortal ignorance. So it becomes ignorance. It is striving for the ultimate knowledge. It doesn't have naturally. You have the world of life, vital world, where Chit Tapas has taken this form. So what form it has taken? Life wants to achieve, experience, but it cannot. It is limited. So it takes the form of desire in ignorance. And then the Satlok, the Sat Purush, one existence become this matter. This is what we call as I exist because my body exists. So Sat, Chit, Anand. What about Anand? A drop of Ananda resides in us as the psychic being. That is so touching the psychic being releases the Ananda imprisoned in man. So there are three higher worlds made on unity, truth, infinity, and eternity. The three lower worlds where everything becomes limited. So there is limited existence, limited power, limited joy, limited knowledge, and therefore there is a tussle. Because deep within we know Sachidanand is there. So we want more, more and more and more, and there is no end to it. It's actually a boon. It's not but only we must know how to get that ultimate. But it is given to us to be dissatisfied and we seek for more. Because a limited existence knows intuitively behind it is infinite existence. So it can never be rest. But what is the link between these three and three? And that is the supermind. So supermind is like a prism. It receives the one and like a prism scatters into 7 rays. It releases infinite rays out of that one. Actually, there are infinite. I mean, nowadays, if you see in computers, how many colors are there, shades? Earlier it was 64. Now I think there's maybe a million shades. And literally, it's a sign that we are coming closer to truth. So there may be 3 primary colors, but basically, there are infinite is coming. So millions of rays, millions of possibilities. That's why the supermind is described as the sun. It is the creatrix consciousness. Beyond it, there is no creation. Divine is in its own masti. Anand Lok, there is the beautiful Ras, Maharas. In Chidghan Lok, there is Vishnu and his Leela. Time to time he is to come down on earth, but otherwise all is joy and wonder and beauty. In Satlok, there is this great Param Purush. You can't ask him about creation. He'll say, what creation? Come, vanish. There are people, Shivandu describes that in Book 3, Canto 1. He's unknowable. That's it. But here, there is the Leela. So what does the supermind it has done? It picks up that idea and releases million possibilities because that idea contains within itself potential of infinity. One wanted to become many means we can imagine infinite possibilities. That's why the sun is regarded as the symbol of supermind. Many rays, some will come on this part of earth, some another, some will travel far and wide to distant planets and galaxies. So from the supermind, million rays are unleashed, and then each has its own destiny as it comes through different layers of stratosphere and different spheres, different domains, and eventually it falls upon earth. And then it awakens, quickens life, changes the season. So these are the planes. So to create a supramental divine creation means now a truth creation, because supermind, though it is the link, it is still regarded as the upper hemisphere. So you have in Indian thought these 2 hemispheres of existence known as Parardha and Aparardha. Para means beyond, higher hemisphere. There everything is based on unity, truth. There is no error there. So there is no sorrow, no suffering. There is no pain. There is always ananda. So the upper hemisphere consists of these 4 layers now. Sat, Chit, Anand and Vigyanmay, the supermind. And there is the lower 3 hemisphere, mind, life and matter. And that's why we see these stories. Ravan, Jalandhar, sometimes they are described as Trilokadhipati. What is meant by Trilokadhipati? They had mastered material life, vital life, even mental life. He had mapped the stars and knew how to manipulate the movement of the stars or destiny. That's what is meant by all the Navagraha he had captured. Highly developed intellectually, scientifically, technologically, based on the mind. And yet, even if you have all the 3 worlds, if you don't have that one, you will collapse. It's like a house of cards. So on one side, you will keep hearing Trilokadhipati. But beyond the Trilokas, in Upanishad, you have this Dashmavidya. The head is Tripur Sundari, the beauty that none of these 3 worlds contains. the Divine Mother, and then she releases us into the higher domains. We cannot go beyond from the lower to the higher without the Divine Mother's grace. That's what we see in Savitri, the world soul, where she has to open the door. She is the one who has allowed this limitation for a purpose. Because in every little limited thing is like a pot in which the seed has been planted. So she limits the infinite, therefore she is Maya. She has created the system of worlds. She has created the gods, goddesses. All are under her influence. They cannot go beyond their brief. Even the great gods, they are limited. They have this sense. That's why Mother's story about Durga surrendering to the Supreme is so significant. They act under the divine impulsion, but only in a limited field. So these are the planes, there are countless gods, energies. The practical importance is that they impact upon us. And we have to learn to choose. Like in a TV channel, some people keep flicking the channel. We do that. Whatever feeling comes, nowadays there's something, whatever. Very dangerous thing, Even sometimes great truth. Live in the present. Unless you qualify it. My live in the present says, go and slap this person, so I am living in the present. Being true to yourself. These are great truths, mind you, but they are all distorted in the lower worlds. So there is that godlike energies, the asuric energies. So live in the present. Wonderful. Great truth. So Asura says, yes, your present moment is this. I live by my own truth. You don't even know your own truth, but I am living by my truth.
I have a question on this.
Yeah.
That are we at all times in all planes, just that we're not aware?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That is an important truth. And if you know that, life becomes beautiful. An actor killing or dying, being killed, is a stage play. He has an independent reality apart from this. If he has to play the role well, he must identify. Pran Sahib was a wonderful human being, but a perfect villain. When people saw him, they had this idea, but he was at heart a very good human being. So we exist on all these planes. This is there in one of the Yog versus stories. Some of us may have read it of Leelavati. As they go, even Mahabharata at the end, when Yudhishthir goes, he sees even Kauravas are there in heaven. He says, what is this? So we all exist. But what is the difference then? The difference is there is a plane till which everything is still luminous and beautiful. But when it descends, there is a distortion in some, more in others it is less. So that's why the Mother and Sri Aurobindo say this world is not an illusion, it's a distortion. So it's an illusion only in the sense that it is not an exact representation of the reality, but a distorted. If you say illusion, then you can't do anything except run away from the illusion. But if it's a distortion, you can correct it. So original, and you see in real life also, you will see that that's why nowadays we talk about, even law talks about mens rea and actus rea. And that is the beauty of Indian culture, that we give much more importance to the motive than to the act. That's why people find very difficult to understand the Gita. It's not about violence or non-violence. It's about the state, sthit pragya, dedicated to the divine, sarva sankalpa sannyasi. Then you are acting. It's not the act of final act, maybe shooting an arrow or using a gun as the soldier is. But that is the difference between a soldier and a mercenary. But even there, when you go deep within, let's take a mercenary, worst case scenario, terrorist who is killing. Again, we have to understand that on the ground level, what you have to do. It's understood. But let's say a terrorist to kill hundreds of people. And then when you go back deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. So you say, I'm a very poor man. These people promised me. Most of the terrorism, by the way, is all because of money. There's nothing to do with ideology. It's a brainwashing. There's studies of that. It's all a dirty play of money and power control happening at levels which are best not spoken about. And there's a fellow who needed money. He got an easy money. His mistake. He shouldn't have chosen for that. Chosen for a true lie. But that's where the distortion comes in. A grave distortion. And he acted. Outer act is so gruesome. Deep within, need for money because family, and he loves his family. Now, if you see deep within, there is one existence. The person wants a life where he is happy with the family, loves family, nothing wrong with that per se. But outwardly, it has taken such a gross distortion. Again, it doesn't mean sympathy with the outer act or with the, that is the distortion that, you know, like beyond good and evil. Shri Krishna talks of that. But when we distort it, we say it doesn't matter what I do then. So he has distorted much more, and that is dangerous. And much of religious truths have got distorted like that. But in its original impulsion, they are beautiful. That's why in any religion, it doesn't matter which religion, there are people who can contact the divine. It doesn't matter what ceremony is going on, they know because they have a true aspiration. So when we look at life like that, we understand in its comprehensive totality. So there is a play here which we need to address, but never to forget that there are levels at which we all exist. And there are beautiful levels. Our own truth is there. That's why deep within, to close this, one proof that psychic being exists. So if you take a worldwide survey of ask anybody and everybody, regardless of their gender, beliefs, non-beliefs, religious, secular, and this and that, or any profession, educated, uneducated, literate, illiterate, because there are two different things, being literate and educated. So you ask a few questions. Do you want love or do you want hatred? Do you want peace or you want agitation? Do you want beauty or do you want ugliness? Do you want health or do you want illness? The answer will be same. But the paradox is, we do everything which is just the opposite. So we are all existing on these two planes. One where we aspire for all that is divine, and the other where we are doing everything that is undivine, in the sense undivine has a practical importance. Its deepest level, there is nothing like that. So why this happens? Because of these cosmic forces which come and mislead us. So you will see in Ramayana, wherever there is yajna, all these people come. Have you ever wondered, yajna kar raha hai, what is there? He is lighting a fire. Why are the asuras and rakshasas after this fellow? But you will see Ravana, he would destroy the yajna vedi. And how they would destroy? They will throw meat, they will throw alcohol, they will throw smoke, they will create fear. So by these means, they want to destroy the inner yagna. Through the yagna, the divine is manifesting. Yagna means refining a tendency. They don't want it. So these forces try to create distortion. Now the rishis, supposing it gets afraid and starts running, he will chase him and kill him. That's what happened in Somnath, and he'll chase him and kill him. But one odd rishi makes the act of courage. Or like Markandeya, even when death is near, he holds Shiva and says, I'm his child. You dare not come near me. I am death. He says, you may be Kal, but he's Mahakal. So you see that choice which we make, because both things exist. I could have made a choice to succumb to fear, to lure, to the quick money, and it would have led me on the gross distortion, destruction, all this anger, krodhat bhavati sammoha, delusions of it. Or I could have made a choice that, well, this is a challenge, I will rise up to the challenge. So these choices are there because we exist on all the planes. If we were fixed, then there is no question of choice. So that's how our journey is, all of us. And it's beautiful to know that, like Alice in Wonderland, who won the race? All have come first. All have won the race. You remember that? So beautiful. So, because we are not really running the race with somebody or against somebody.
So,
And that is the whole secret. Yeah.
I had a simple question.
Yeah.
Sorry. What do these symbols mean?
Oh, wonderful. So, yes. So you see on to your right, my left, there is what is known as Sri Aurobindo symbol. And onto my right and your left is the mother's symbol. So any symbol is a representation of a truth. So there are several ways you can reveal a truth. So you can reveal a truth in the flash of a moment through a vision Now, that's not common. Very few people will have that apocalyptic moment. You can reveal a truth through pages after pages of philosophy. So it becomes very difficult. By the time you reach the last page, you've forgotten the first page. But it's the truth which is revealed. You can reveal the truth in one sentence. You can reveal the truth through a representative story. But you can reveal the truth also through a symbol. So in Indian thought, you see, particularly in Tantra, you have yantra, mantra, and puja. So yantra is a symbol. Now this symbol represents the reality. Symbol means by its nature. So that's why what does it mean? What is the reality it represents? So if it is Sri Aurobindo's symbol, it represents Sri Aurobindo's reality. The simple answer. It's the mother symbol, it represents mother's reality. So now we see that how does it represent that? So you have this ascending triangle and descending triangle. And both these triangles are equilateral. They are not just ascending and descending triangle isosceles. They are equilateral. That's how in the center there is a square. And you have water and you have the lotus and few leaves. Each of them reveals something. So the ascending triangle is where matter aspires through life, light, and love. So the first aspiration is matter is through life. Life wants. It wants perfection. It strives for, delight. So first through life. Before that, matter is a dead inert object. Through light, it seeks for knowledge. It seeks for wisdom. And through love. And all of them must be equal. It's not that I just through life and I forget about wisdom and love. So it's a equilateral triangle. All the three sides are balanced. Now, when all of them are balanced in response to it, there is the descending triangle, which is grace. The divine answers. The source answers. So the divine is Sat Chit Ananda, existence, consciousness, bliss. So he comes in response to our seeking. And in the beginning, he touches like 2 points touch and recedes. Then he comes a little more, starts occupying some space in the heights of this aspiration. When we are in a beautiful moment of aspiration, we feel the divine contact. Then again, clouds come. Then he comes still further. We feel him in the heart. The golden light came down into my mind, and all my mind is untouched became a bright reply to wisdom's occult flame, a calm illumination and a flame. So it touches the higher layers. Then it comes still further, touches the heart. Love awakens for the divine. Comes still further, touches the vital parts, and we want to live for the divine. Then it enters into the very material body. And then there is this perfect creation. This square is always the symbol of perfection. So here it is the symbol of the supramental, the junction between the higher and the lower. We are speaking about the junction. And in this perfection, you see water. Water means multiplicity. Water always is a symbol of life, even in fields. So wherever, civilizations have sprung up around water. The word is river of life. People talk about tree of life, but they forget about the river of life. So water symbolizes multiplicity, which is creation. So but the creation, where is the center of that creation? So the lotus is the avatar. The divine himself conducts the affair of the creation and comes as the embodied human form to lead it forward. Even otherwise, he is there behind. But when he steps in the forefront, then he becomes the avatar. And then you have these 3 leaves around the lotus, the manifestation. So when you look at this symbol, it gives us the secret of Sri Aurobindo's yoga. We must aspire. Aspire for what? For wisdom, for love, for beauty, because form, for life that is immortal, luminous force. When we aspire, a time comes when that descent takes place. But when you aspire, there must be something at the center. Center of a life should shift from the ego and be enthroned the divine. But divine is too vague. So the embodied divine, the avatar, that is the lotus. Lotus everywhere is a symbol of the divine. So you'll find in this yoga, people talk about centering their lives around Sri Aurobindo and the mother. So is the embodied divine or Krishna or Christ, depending on whoever. So when they center around the embodied divine, then they begin to grow into that divine image. So the divine assumes a human image so that the human can grow into the divine. If you center your life around Christ, you grow into the inner Christhood, which is what it is meant to be, not an outer religion. When you grow into center your life around Krishna, you grow into the inner Krishnahood, not create a cult around him. When you center your life around Buddha, Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, I'm not going into the semantics and the different layers of meaning, then you grow into the truth of Buddha. It doesn't matter whether you visited a Buddhist temple or not, but this is the whole purpose of life. Center is the avatar, the embodied divine, and then not only for myself, but for the whole creation. So water. So this is Sri Aurobindo's symbol, which communicates this truth. Sri Aurobindo, as the embodied divine, has come to lift this creation so that from its right now distorted, ugly form, it becomes a perfect creation. He comes and brings the grace, and he stands at the center of the evolution next, if you want to put it like that. That is Sri Aurobindo symbol. Now, Mother, she teaches us practically. Same truth, but now this is, Mother is lotus seen from above. So it's basically lotus seen from above. So you have the center. Center is Aditi, the divine consciousness. Saying, okay, you want the new creation, new manifestation. What is at the center? It doesn't matter where you live. You may live in the ashram, but your center may still be the ego. Have we dethroned the ego and replaced there, put there the mother? So first thing required is center. Set the center right, everything will be right. Any puzzle, we learned this lesson as a student, I'm sure, as children, solving a puzzle. So you have done everything all around, everything is fitting, but centerpiece is not fitting. Somehow, you are getting confused. What has happened? Central piece is important in life. At the center must be the divine. Around it, the four powers: Maheshwari, Mahalakshmi, Mahasaraswati, wisdom, you have force or power or strength, you have love, and you have detailed perfection, which Mahasaraswati brings. So it is they who must organize my life. Means my life should become a worship of the Divine Mother in these aspects. How will it become a worship? How do I worship Maheshwari? Sri Aurobindo has really given us a very new way. I don't have to do a particular mantra and go to a place A. But Maheshwari is the goddess of wisdom. What does she like? Wideness, calm, compassion, tranquility, to look at things from a great height. When we grow these things in us, she is very happy. Or rather, they grow because of her touch upon us. Mahakali. Mahakali, impulses that are straightforward, frank, love for truth. The power that brooks no obstacle. When we have that kind of courage inside, that means Mahakali is doing a work and we are responding. And then we have Mahalakshmi, which ties whole creation in a single warp and whoop of beauty and harmony. So beauty and harmony in our thoughts and feelings, beauty and harmony in life and surroundings, beauty and harmony in each and every act. When we live with that sense of beauty and harmony, we don't have to learn moral rules to start with. But let every act grow beautiful. Let it build harmony. So when we live like that, that means Mahalakshmi is now working within us. And then Mahasaraswati, this must go into every detail. So every detail of life, she labors. And that's why she is the one who is the most patient. This age is the age of Mahasaraswati, because this is the age of perfection. So she works into every detail. So one may think, wonderful experiences I had. Mahasaraswati said, no, there is something else. And whenever there is clouds of gloom, she will change with a smile. Don't worry, I am working. Sri Aurobindo describes us as a perfect counselor and mentor. She chases with her smile the clouds of gloom that assail the seeker. Why? She says, don't worry, there is work to do. Come, let's do it. Let's not get into gloom and despair. I'm there. We'll build it together. Hum honge kamyab together. So, Mahasaraswati. When these four powers, as they begin to work, then there is a further efflorescence of the divine qualities which are needed for the new creation. So we have these 12 qualities which change. Equanimity develops from within. It's not a stoic something done from outside. It's not indifference, but an equanimity that develops from within outward. Goodness, sincerity, aspiration, courage, humility, gratitude. So all these 12 qualities he speaks about, 8 which are with reference to the divine and 4 with reference to humanity. Generosity, yes. So when these qualities begin to develop, and we should also try to cultivate them by replacing their opposite. That is the way of Raj Yoga, which Mother recommends. So every time we have a hate, so you must very consciously replace it with goodness. The person may have harmed you, but now if you are harming, you have dragged yourself down to the same level. You have that goodwill, goodness, and pray and leave it. Somebody is there who will take care whatever way. Don't even say, oh, God will see you. No. So when we replace hatred with goodness and goodwill, then these have to be cultivated, like a plant has to be cultivated. Every time we are troubled and disturbed, equanimity. Every time we think I am deviating from things, sincerity. Bring it back to that same point, focus, centered, rightly centered. Aspiration. When things are very difficult, we are getting lost into all kinds of things. Aspiration for the divine. That is the saving grace. So when we cultivate them and when all of them fully bloom, that means the lotus of the divine life has fully bloomed within us. So the symbol is recreated within us and we become part and parcel of the new creation. So it's a symbolic way of representing the deeper truth. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. My God. I've heard and processed the meaning, but never like this.
Never heard that it was the lotus from the
Above, and for me, those lines, the meaning of those lines, I never knew. Very.
So all symbols are like that. They are meant to represent a reality. And it's very interesting to know and important to know. Why? Because then we know that this is what we have to become and live in our life. Otherwise, the symbol, laga diya, pranam kiya, then it's another religion. Yeah. For that matter, Murat is a symbol. It's not that Krishna is always standing like this and playing the flute, but it's a symbol. Flute is the call of the divine. So he's calling us. If you hear the call, you rush like Gop and Gopi, abandoning everything. If you don't hear the call, he'll meet us in Kurukshetra. He'll say, come. I'll meet you there. So it's a symbol. Chakra is a symbol. It destroys darkness. That's how it is, Sudarshan Chakra. So all of them are symbol. So when you look at the entire, all these Indian images,
When you mention faith, faith is a very, very powerful word. At least.
Yes.
And I have very simple questions. So sorry if I ask anything which is little kinder.
questions are all good. There are no kinder. Answers can be foolish.
They are.
question, also a beautiful answer.
Yeah.
When you say that, faith finds you, does it find everyone? Or there are some people whom it might not find?
It delays. Faith is an attribute of the soul. So all these divine things, not only faith, aspiration, it is going to find you. It may be quick or it may be late. That's all. There's a very beautiful passage in Savitri where Sri Aurobindo describes a date is fixed. Let me read that whole passage. One who has made this world is ever its Lord. Our errors are his steps upon the way. He works through the fierce vicissitudes of our lives. He works through the hard breath of battle and toil. He works through our sins, our sorrows, and our tears. Whatever the appearance, we must bear. Whatever our strong ills and present fate, When nothing we can see but drift and bail, a mighty guidance leads us still through all. After we have served this great divided world, God's bliss and oneness are our inborn right. And then the passage comes. A date is fixed in the calendar of the unknown, an anniversary of our birth sublime. Our souls shall justify its checkered walk. All shall come near that now is not or far. So they're always there. There is nothing else but the divine hidden behind the veil. But when we'll be ready, that's the other part, time factor. So uncertainty is only in terms of time, never in terms of eventuality. So as long as we know that, courage. So it does find us, but another way is when we are ready, it just discloses itself. Look here, I'm here. It was all the time there. Sometimes to uncover itself, it can create situation and circumstances where you say, where are you? He says, I'm here, right there, beside you, within you. And suddenly, there is a veil which is rent. So he may use different ways, the very opposite. So to find faith, he may lead us through a journey where one is full of doubt and one meets a situation where you have no choice but to abandon. So that's how the journey. Now, faith also, there is a journey of faith even after it has touched. Faith may be small and limited. Faith may be covered with all kinds of demands and desires. But faith grows into vastness, wideness, becomes more and more luminous. So every of these divine qualities will have a faith journey. Like devotion, there may be that the first two stages of Haituki devotion or inferior kinds of bhakti, arth and artharthi. Or they can be the bhakti of the jnani, jigyasu and the jnani. So faith will grow. For instance, in any form of the divine, you have a faith. So that is wonderful. But let us say that you have faith in, if I pray to this God, I'll get salvation. Okay, that's a kind of faith. But what if you don't want salvation? You want the earth to change into a beautiful. Now, there is a kind of framework which will not support it. It says, no, that's not possible. I mean, this was my problem. That, I don't want individual nirvana. That's too selfish. But then comes the extension and expansion of faith. Suddenly, Mother and Sri Aurobindo, that yes, it is possible. So faith gets justified. A new aspiration begins. But then it doesn't cancel the other stages. It understands this limited faith, even if it is limited, it's okay. That's why faith is something which is precious. I'm not talking of belief systems, but a faith that is in the heart. So Sri Krishna says, I strengthen it. If somebody believes in a stone, believes it is God, let him believe that, it is some kind of contact he's having. Of course, he picks up the stone and wants to hit you with it. Then the line is, your faith cannot become my death. You have faith, find God through that means wonderful. But if you start using your faith to destroy other faiths, see, that was my way I explain many of these things. But they have faith, equal right. I said, yes. But if your faith becomes destructive and intolerant of every other faith, I have to stop you because you are doing what is adharma. Faith is too precious. You have no right to destroy. Why destroy? Even convert somebody's faith because you are deviating him from his path. So that is the beauty of Sanatana Dharma. So it gave a wide, but sometimes we may be lost in that wideness. Sabka apna apna rasta, yes. So that's why I say freedom is till that point where your freedom does not become my bondage. So that's how one has to look. So faith also becomes wider, more luminous, and then it is justified with knowledge. End of faith is knowledge. Then you don't need faith because you know. So, but it's too precious a treasure. If one has it, one should guard it more faithfully than the treasure of Kuber. And that's why the company of those who awaken or enhance this faith is so important. Because when the faith is very small flame, then every little wind can blow it off. But when faith has grown into a fire, then when the winds come, it grows still further. And when it has become an inferno, then storms can do nothing. So we have to see at each stage. When the faith is a teeny weeny, chinna, small little flame, guard it. Put a fence around that little plant because it will be eaten by the animals.
Mm.
Don't allow all these storms to come. Don't get into active debates, discussions, because it's too small a flame. Suddenly you will see a highly literate, not educated, degreed person. Again and again, the difference. These are all bogus things. And if your mind is not, intellect is not open to the wideness of the divine knowledge, then you won't know how to answer. And you will say, I don't know, maybe he's right. He has written 10 books. He's acclaimed. University professors call him. So when the faith is small, take care, avoid company of such people and books, I would say. When it has become a fire, then the winds blow, it blazes.
Can faith be independent of any particular sect?
It is. In its essence, it is independent of sect. But just as a child needs to hold on to something, man in his present stage cannot suddenly. That's why I was speaking of Tantra, these 3 stages. So we can start about that, like Pashu, human, and the Devata. So in the beginning, faith in the divine, well, or let's not even use the word divine, perfection means that there is a perfect state. Buddha started like that, Anatmavad. You don't give any form. Now, Buddha could do it. Buddha is mighty, trampled over every desire. But even when Buddha gave the path, he didn't give this. He said, he knew it is dangerous. He only said, don't fix it into doctrinal beliefs. So, Anatmavad. But he gave a path nevertheless. He didn't say you can do any of these things. So, he gave the eightfold path. He gave the dharma, the sangha, because you need to hold something. So, in the beginning, just like when a plant is growing upward, it needs, it's very delicate. So in the beginning, we need outer representations. So outer representations again can be very, very limited, or it can be wide. So it can be Christ in a church, or it can be the imitation of Christ, where you see, which is a yoga in its own right. You discover Christhood. You see Krishna inside a little temple in a particular pose. Rama always with Dhanushman, but that is not their reality. Wherever there is Paurush, there is Rama. That's why we have this, that Durga, one is 10 armed, Dash Bhuja Dharini. Other way of understanding Durga is wherever a woman, Joan of Arc, or Jhansi ki Rani, she's Durga. That's how. That's a more Vyapak way of understanding. So one creates a sect, other liberates you. But you start from here. Then go next level. Then a time comes when you are freed from all that and understand the thing in its essence. But then do you do away with it? No, that is the beauty. So in Sanatan Dharma, because human beings are at different level, don't take away these rungs. At the same time, something else. I may discover that Mother and Sri Aurobindo are inside me. So what does it mean? When I stand before them, I say, oh, they are inside, I don't need to bow. No, on the contrary, now I will bow with a greater knowledge. That is what is called as the Jnani who is a Bhakta. Why? Because, they who are inside are outside also. If I love someone, I like to see the picture of the person whom I love. I just can't say, love is all inside. I don't need to express it. The person will leave me in 2 days and go. He'll say, you keep your love inside. It is of no use to me. So even when you discover the highest, there is a scope and a valid scope because body wants to participate. My inside has discovered the divine beyond every limit and fence. But my body doesn't, so it needs to touch. That's why you see Mother and Sri Aurobindo, the relics and all those things that they gave. Because physical body also aspires. So therefore, all these things have their own place. Sects and cults are kindergarten and primary schools to train us from the school of ignorance towards the school of knowledge. As we go further, we discover the vastness. We have done the higher secondary. But we don't take away the classes. A person who has done PhD doesn't say, there's no use of these classes, dismantle them. He'll say, you have gone crazy, you have studied too much. On the contrary, now he will come back with this full knowledge and teach the kindergarten at kindergarten level, primary at primary level, because he knows the different stages. That's what we see in the mother's conversations. She literally, when child asks a question, she explains like that at every level. So there are different levels. It's not either or. Some people need cult and sect, so be it. Some have gone beyond it, so be it. Some need to progress through forms, some progress through formless. But we should know the limitations. The formless pursuit of the divine will not transform matter. That is the secret one must know, because your form is not participating. Even when the mind is building a murat, an image, it is a form. So this truth Sri Aurobindo brings out. So when we meditate on the formless, if at all we can, it's not easy, the mind will get lost, but there is a way to meditate on the formless. So what happens? You will discover the vastness and the wide impersonality of Brahman Nirvana. But then it will have no impact on the form, because nothing in the form has supported your journey. Neither the thought, nor the idea, nor the feelings, nor the physical body serving the divine. So it's a beautiful discovery, liberates you individually, but for transformation, it is not enough. That's why Sri Aurobindo says we do not seek after the impersonal, but impersonal will come at a stage, which is fine. But to seek after the impersonal, that's exactly what the Gita says very beautifully. The Gita is, Arjuna asks Sri Krishna the same thing, but in another way. He says, some follow after the impersonal. So, and some, what you are teaching, devotion, and devotion has a tendency to what we call as cults and sects. So he says some are devoted. So, which is greater? So Sri Krishna tells him, those who seek after the impersonal also ultimately reach me. Because the divine is a being. There, and these are, some people say how he is a being. Very simple. How do I say that I exist? I am aware. So that's how I can say. It's not based on my body. I may be in coma. I don't know. I am not aware. So he or it or that which is fully aware, fully conscious. By its nature, it's a being. It knows itself. That's the end of the story. So it's a being. So, but the person seeking after impersonal doesn't know him. So he says, still, I'm there, I draw him. But they climb through a very difficult path. They don't find any support. So when they're trying to climb like Tom Cruise, Mission Impossible, that is of course film. So height is only, mountain is this much. If you climb a real mountain, if you fall, you're gone. He says, but others, I hold by the rope. So even while they're climbing, it looks like they're climbing. But the rope is in my hands. If they fall, I support. So the journey is delightful because all through you are aware that there is a rope holding you. And secondly, he says it's a more perfect and complete path. Because you discover the divine not only in his impersonality, but his supreme personality and infinite qualities, and then in creation you discover him. Otherwise, you discover him away from the world. That's why all those who sought after the impersonal, they end up declaring that the world is, illusion, because there is nothing which supports this great discovery. So, while it is good to know that the divine is beyond, impersonal is a wonderful thing, but it is not the end, nor the origin of creation. How could the impersonal create at all to start with? There is no stir in it. Then we'll have to create a gulf between creation and that state, whatever it is. So supports are needed, and these supports he has made. It's not like human beings have just imagined. So we have to know these steps and stages, and it's always good to have the humility that even I cannot do what even Tom Cruise didn't do. He only created a show. To do that, I have to fall down 10,000 times trying to climb. Maybe after that, then somebody will say, "Beta, helicopter hai." One day I learned the lesson. So that's how the whole thing is. So cults and sects are not required, but in a sense, it's good. But you have to go beyond it. Don't limit yourself to that. Till you develop like Mother and Sri Aurobindo, of course, they are there in the ashram, that's wonderful. But to limit them that they're only there, that will be dangerous. So I discovered them in this house. I felt Akshay Bhai's house that not only a meditation room, I said this pura ghar ashram ka ghar hai. So that is a larger context which mother herself has said. She said after 56 that wherever my children are there and they are turned to the teaching of Mother and Sri Aurobindo, there is a tie which is never cut, and that is an extension of the ashram, the inner ashram. So while this is required, it should be complemented by this truth that he is sarvavyapi. And then we enjoy much more. So when you know this, that he is sarvavyapi, and you go to the samadhi and bow down, you know that at whose feet you are bowing. When I watched this movie, Dosti, Tarachand Bardhatya's, I think first movie, with that his Rashi production picked up. So that was a time when Mother and Sri Aurobindo were coming from every side. They had taken it to invade. So it was literally an invasion. So as the movie started, they used to put Mother's picture. As I saw, I thought, both of us, myself and my wife, kya baat hai. But it was an aha moment. Picture dekhne ke hai, knowing it's a good movie, but this is like paisa vasool ho gaya. But then below I read the Mother of Sri Aurobindo Ashram Pondicherry. Frankly, it hit me. Not in a good way. I said, why she has been limited? What do you mean? Because that time, I'm not part of Sri Aurobindo Ashram, but she's so real and true. So somebody tells, some of the people, when mother was there, I said, please don't say that. For me, that sentence doesn't exist. So there are different levels at which you perceive the same truth. But for somebody, it is required to put it like that because they need. Mother kept telling, I'm not just this body. You seek support inside, but it has its pluses, but it can become very disadvantageous. Because if you don't, you are not able to comprehend the totality of the divine, you limit. And then the divine will liberate you by ways and means which will be sometimes, terrible. So it's good. To start with is good, but to know that while the roots are rooted in one spot, the tree spreads wide into this whole open sky. So while it's good to be rooted in the divine, but to go beyond every cult and sect, not to dismantle anything, to know its place, then when you come back, you know who is it whom you are worshipping and adoring. She's not the mother of Sri Aurobindo Ashram, Pondicherry. She is the universal mother of unnumbered souls. Love in her was wider than the universe. The whole world could take refuge in her single heart. Then you see it, she became this mother. Okay? Thank you. Thank you so much.